Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about an intense jet stream bringing multiple chances of severe weather over the coming days, along with heavy snow and Arctic air. Welcome back everyone. I appreciate all my followers out there and the new followers that are new to this channel. I would love to reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And if you hadn't subscribed already, it's easy to do. It's free. It's all you got to do is click the subscribe button and be a part of the channel, and you can ring the bell to get notified on my daily updates. I'm going to really kind of break down and kind of fine tune these upcoming severe threats over this coming day. So it's important to share this video with your friends and family so they're made aware of what's to come. So let's kind of zoom in, and really what really stands out today is Chicago. They are actually broke their snowless streak out. It officially happened about noontime today at Chicago O'Hare. It's snowing there, 34 degrees. And it's got some Arctic air well to the north with well below zeros temperatures, and it's hard pressed to warm up in Seattle again. It's only 25 degrees and it's still freezing and off the coastline here. So it's, you know, plenty of cold air up here in our northwestern and central part of the US, but plenty of warm air down in the warm sector, where we're talking 81 in Houston, 79 in Dallas, widespread 70s, and that's going to bring the stage for multiple rounds of severe weather. In fact, you can actually see these little bubblers that are actually bubbling up this afternoon in portions of Louisiana. So let's kind of zoom into that area, and let's take a look at the overall 3K kilometer NOM radar depiction. And you can actually see these little, what they call renegades, or these isolated discrete bubblers that kind of popping up within that warm sector. So this is a kind of a new thing that could be looking at some severe storms even breaking out this afternoon in portions of Louisiana and getting into Mississippi, because these are isolated, discrete. And in fact, just the latest, the Storm Prediction Center has kind of highlighted this area, and they're putting this under a warranted watch for possibly over the next several hours for some of these storms to start bubbling up and turning severe. And so they can bring, you know, isolated discrete supercells in its wake, and along with gusty winds, and an isolated tornado is not out of the question for northern parts of Louisiana and southern parts of Mississippi here. So definitely, even this afternoon, be on high alert for some of these little isolated supercells to start bubbling up in the heat of the day that could turn severe, and some of these could be nasty at times. So let's take a look at the overall marginal risk, because in fact, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted this area and put it under a marginal risk for severe weather, and included that 2% chance for tornadoes. So the main areas, you're talking Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, going into Lafayette, you know, more or less the, you know, eastern parts of Louisiana and the southern parts of Mississippi. It's kind of an isolated area, but yeah, you could see some of those stronger to severe storms later on this afternoon. So let's take a look at the expanded view and go take a look at for tomorrow, because that's when our first initial main setup is going to come to fruition. We can see some cold air filtering in from the northwest with more heavy snow out in those regions, in the portions of Oregon and Northern California. That filters into Nevada as well as Idaho, with more heavy snow going in towards the mountains of Colorado. Welcome rain in California. And we do have a little disturbance. It's going to move across, say, North Texas in the morning. Going to bring some light showers in and around the North Texas area into portions of Oklahoma here. And these are morning showers. So these are the areas that are going to get hit hard with the severe threat. But you could see some morning activity, not severe, but at least morning activity, kind of rain showers under the cloud cover, under that soupy high dew pointed atmosphere. But what we're taking a look at is the overall vorticity index as we go into the afternoon, and they're subtle, but you can actually see this rotation up here into parts of Missouri. But underneath that, it's got a very powerful low-level jet that's going to be moving in. And on the southern flank of that, that's where we're going to have severe weather kind of breaking out in the afternoon hours. And you can already actually see our next setup waiting in the wings off the coast of the west coast of California. that is going to be another severe threat to come by the time we get into New Year's Day time frame. So let's kind of zoom in for that Wednesday feature. They did actually expand this from this morning. They expanded the slight risk for severe weather northward and northeastward towards Tennessee. So we do have a marginal risk for severe weather essentially from East Texas all the way to parts of western North Carolina and southern Kentucky here, going down to Louisiana and central Georgia. So all these areas could be under the gun for all three modes of severe weather, with those damaging winds, large hail, and some tornadoes could not be out of the question with this setup. Kind of the bullseye with this particular setup is right here into Mississippi, at least central and northern Mississippi, getting into Tennessee, and there's your tornado threat right along that bullseye. So the main threat with this system is going to be your damaging winds. We could see some larger hail, but a couple of tornadoes is definitely not out of the question. And the Storm Prediction Center is kind of looking at, and if it does look to enhance this risk, it's going to be in our northern sections of Mississippi and Alabama. So I am expecting a possible upgrade to an enhanced risk in the overnight update by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. Some of the guidance is starting to really kind of come together, and especially if we get any type of clearing in the atmosphere tomorrow afternoon, that's going to make things worse. So let's just kind of break this down and take a look at the overall significant tornado parameter index by about 6 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I think it starts around 3. And it goes all the way to possibly 3 o'clock in the morning. So we're talking a pretty wide range of event, maybe a 12-hour time span. We could be looking at a broader area for severe weather. But through 6 o'clock, we just could get some of those isolated, discrete thunderstorms breaking out, and they could start to rotate in and around portions of Mississippi and Alabama. So if we break this down and look at the EHI index, kind of the same deal. A lot of the areas are showing rotation in the atmosphere, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted this area, and that actually continues to shift further northward as we get into the overnight hours, and I think it just extends. So if we break it down in the latest 3K, the actual HRRR model, this is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You can actually see already isolated kind of supercell little bubblers, those renegades that we talked about, even that's happening today in Louisiana, are going to be bubbling up, and they don't look that impressive on radar, but they are impressive because it didn't take much with these little systems, because they're not congealed or joined together. When they're discrete like this, that's what makes them more severe, because there's nothing to kind of stop it. It kind of acts if it kind of feeds off itself, and these could turn severe in a big way and quickly within this type of atmosphere. So yeah, about 3 o'clock, we start to see kind of under the gun and be in kind of high alert in these areas, where some of these start to kind of rotate and even dropping some larger hail as we get into the overnight hours. By the time we get into that 8 o'clock update, that's when we start to see a little bit more numerous these little bubblers starting to pop up. And again, in and around the Mississippi area, the Alabama area, parts into Arkansas, that feeds into Tennessee. That's why they elevated it and pushed it further up northward. But look what happens into the overnight hours. This is about 3 o'clock in the morning, right? It really starts to fire. It really starts to intensify. We see a lot more bubblers popping up in that same general area, and it moves over into Tennessee, but starts to get into the northern parts of Georgia here. So those areas could be under the gun by then into the overnight hours. So you can see it's a pretty widespread event from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon to about 3 o'clock in the morning. And that same system just continues to shift southeastward. So as it does, going into Thursday morning, the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted that marginal risk for severe weather going into New Orleans, into Baton Rouge, into Montgomery, Alabama, Mobile, and parts of Georgia here, with those stronger to severe thunderstorms going into the morning hours on Thursday. So as we zoom out on Friday, this is the last day of the year and puts it into our kind of a really record-breaking December. We got more records going to fall well to the south in the warm sector. Unfortunately, that first system does not clear things out whatsoever because we're still waiting on the Arctic air. And where's the Arctic air? It's up here. It's up here to the north. I mean, we're talking, these are high temperatures, right? Below 10 degrees zero. So that's some cold stuff up north. That's what's going to actually be moving southward and finally push all this out. But before that, we have yet more rounds of severe weather to deal with. So as we take a look at the water vapor imagery and the integrated transport energy, this is the amount of water vapor in the air, and it's extreme. We got high dew points. We got a lot of lift with a powerful jet coming across, and that is going to create all the instability. I mean, look at the chart here. It's almost off the chart. So we got plenty of warm water and just rapid lift to deal with, and that's going to be setting the stage for more severe weather as we go into that Thursday in that Friday time frame towards the end of the year on New Year's Eve. So now we have another slight risk for severe weather going back into Tennessee, back into Little Rock, Arkansas, Jackson, Tennessee, going into Jonesboro, Arkansas. Those areas could be under the gun before the cold front arrives for some of that severe weather, and those could be rotating as well. And that just expands because I think this event is even going to be bigger than what you're seeing currently, or going to be currently with the first event. So you can see we've got multiple rounds of severe weather we're going to be have to deal with within that warm sector. So until that cold front comes in, we got to be dealing with severe weather. So we need to stay high alert and listen to all watches and warnings and have your safe plan in place if you're within these areas. And I do feel like, because this is 4 or 5 days out, this is going to expand and kind of a build and kind of expand on itself as it kind of gets closer, because this looks to be a more significant event than the first initial event. So right now, they're essentially moving from Shreveport, going to Tennessee again, and to Kentucky again. I think this actually just gets expanded into Georgia, into the Carolinas, and probably lifts further northward as well as time goes on. There's the vorticity as we get into that Sunday and Monday time frame, as this same system will continue to shift off into the east. We're probably talking severe weather over the Carolinas by then, South Carolina into Georgia, possibly going into West Virginia, even to portions of PA, where some of those areas still could be in that warm sector. So that's not out of the question as well before that cold front. But after we get towards the morning hours of the 3rd, I think it's off the coast, East Coast here, and the severe threat all goes away. Now we got to talk about the Arctic air. So there's the cold side of it too. So let's kind of back this up to New Year's Day, right? This is New Year's Day. So as the Arctic air starts to plunge southward, we got the southern branch breaking out with severe weather. We got the northern branch breaking out with snow, and heavy snow at times. On the north side of the 850 millibar low pressure, that's where we're going to see the deformation zone, and the heaviest snow going to be falling in these regions, into Nebraska, into Kansas, going into Iowa, yes, in Chicago. So yes, you're kind of breaking the snow drought, and I think you're really going to be connected in this band, this zonal band, because everything's starting to come to fruition here with that Arctic air actually penetrating further south and sooner than what it was showing about 2 days ago. So now we're talking that Arctic air on the morning hours of the 1st with well below zero, almost 30 degrees below zero into portions of Minnesota. And you can see the leading edge of this Arctic air. And ahead of that, that's where the cold zone is. We're 10 into Iowa, get into portions of Chicago here. And I think you're going to be in that bullseye of the heaviest snow. And there's the warm sector further south. As we move into the afternoon hours on that New Year's Day time frame, it really starts to intensify and a lot more blues start to show up. That's an indication of some heavier snow on the cold side with those tight isobars, high winds as well, heavier snow breaking out into Iowa, into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, into portions of Michigan with that southern side as the severe side. And then this continues to shift off, and then you get the backside snow as well. So you're going to be adding to those totals in and around the Chicago area into Michigan, and then going into upstate New York and into Canada here as that continues to push off into the East Coast. And then there's the Arctic air as you wake up on Sunday morning, penetrating all the way down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You're talking 26 degrees as a low temperature. 34 in Houston. That continues to shift south. Now Louisiana is not dealing with the Arctic, not dealing with severe threat. They're dealing with freezing temperatures. So it's going to be a rapid shock to the body, especially since it's just been incredibly warm in this region as of late for the last several weeks. So your body's kind of got accustomed in these areas to warmer weather. So it's going to be a kind of a shock to the system. Not 70 degrees when you're waking up. You're talking 26 degrees when you're waking up in Dallas. So, and that's not even counting the wind chills are going to be in the teens and sometimes into the single digits. So it's going to be a frigid morning for the southern regions, and with that north wind really cranking in, it's going to feel a lot like winter. But yeah, there's the snow as it continues to push off. Now it's going to be over portions of Pennsylvania, going into upstate New York, into Vermont, New Hampshire, into Maine, as this will continue to push off. These aren't that high of a totals because it's going to be moving so quick by then. But all that Arctic air continues to shift further south. Now we're talking a freeze and in the Houston area, a freeze all the way to the coast into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Atlanta, even the panhandle of Florida, right? So that's a much different sight. 21 degrees in Tennessee. I mean, that is not in the warm sector anymore. That's plenty cold Arctic air to wipe out all the kind of ugliness and high humidity in that area. So that is going to be a welcome change. But there's the snow, and I think it's really starting to come together. Everything from the southern region, they really eliminated this because, with the Arctic air coming in fast and furious ahead of time, the backside system does not have much lift to it, and it's going to eat away any snow that was going to potentially falling in the southern branch because the Arctic air is the driest air, and it's going to be eaten away, and it's not going to be able to reach the surface. But that just puts the bullseye in a little bit heavier amounts to the north, and it's going to create a kind of that zonal flow of heavy snow band, or more or less convective banding. So there's going to be a band, in and around northern Kansas, southern Nebraska, Iowa, possibly Chicago, going into central Wisconsin that could pick up 6 to 10, sometimes up to a foot of snow with that second backside system coming in for New Year's Day and going into the January 2nd. There's the heavier snow continues to pummel the West Coast with more snow, with colder air continue to pull down. And there's some heavier snows into portions of northern New England. There's the heavier rains amount with the precipitation more or less starting in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area and more or less pushing off into the East Texas. Really starts to intensify, where we have multiple days of severe threat in the southeast and parts of the Ohio Valley, and this will push off to the East Coast with some heavier rains in that region. And then the welcome rains continue into California, where we desperately need rain in West Texas and the Panhandle of Texas and Denver. We're just not going to be able to get much precipitation, unfortunately, for you guys. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do share this video and let them know of all the potential dangers that may be ahead with these multiple days of severe weather. I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.